High FM, 101.9 megahertz of life.
We continue to talk about things that are important, and one of the conversations that we often have is how words are losing their meaning. We know this because the word apartheid has been unfortunately used in contexts that it doesn't apply. It weakens the word. So has Genesis, so has ethnic cleansing, so have many words lost their meaning. But it really is becoming problematic. Words like racist, fascist, genocide, hate speech, used frequently in different situations where they don't apply. We wanted to understand the broad and political social implications of this trend, and we're joined by Sara Gon, who's a political analyst. Sara, a very warm welcome to you. Thanks for joining us this morning. Hope you're well. Well, I saw you yesterday and you seemed well.
Thanks, Howard. I'm happy to be here.
So let's just talk about this, because if I even take it from a personal perspective, it started happening a lot more when October 7th happened, and suddenly I went from this, very balanced, well-respected intellectual writer, and the minute I had an opinion that differed, I suddenly became a racist. I'm not a racist, and no amount of calling me one is going to make me one. But I was initially quite offended by that. And not even offended, I was I didn't want people to think I'm a racist. But now people call me a racist all the time. It doesn't make me one still. But it's just lost its meaning. And that's in one very small context. Tell me how this impacts more broadly.
I think you're right, Howard. I think it actually is losing currency because it's thrown around, particularly by the sort of politically correct left, the DEI crowd, and I think it's absolutely what happens is you experience it the first time or the first couple of times it really hurts. After that, it becomes it's almost like a libel of the left. Mostly, it's politically correct to have an opinion rather than reaching for the truth, and then express it. And we've seen the fact that, particularly the left, we've seen the fact that they become very self-righteous about their opinions. And they throw the label at them and at you, whatever it may be, and they're intended to hurt, they're intended to offend. But as you say, it's a bit like it's much of what gets thrown at Jews. It absolutely has very little meaning, and particularly in South Africa, I think since democracy, we have seen the allegations of racism by the people generally in the public whittled down because we've had exposure to each other, and by and large, that exposure has just not. There's been less experience of racism because we all share the same problems, and particularly in South Africa, we have huge problems, and there's nothing better to unite people than having particularly problems in governance.
It's so interesting, because as you're saying that, I'm thinking that it's so right. I actually don't think South Africa has a racism problem. I just don't. And maybe maybe I've got rose-tinted spectacles, but I genuinely think that South Africans, as you say, we all experience the same problems and we all want the same things. And it's not about color, or it's not about race, really. It's just simply about, and it's unfortunately being used as a diversion so often.
Well, that's correct. And perhaps it's also, there was an incident, you may have mentioned it, I don't know. There was an incident in Parliament yesterday where Julius Malema called a white ANC parliamentarian a racist. Now, that's just looks laughable, and one dismisses it because you associate it with Malema. He's the racist, and it has no purchase, and he's starting to look increasingly like he's getting a bit desperate. His party is not polling well. It's stagnant at about 7%. So to call out, and the comment that the ANC parliamentarian made was in no way racist, but it was an opportunity to use parliamentary privilege to raise a point of order, and for Julius Malema to levy this accusation. So that, and because in all the years they've been on the scene, one's come to expect this from Malema. One's not surprised, and because it's losing purchase, he's losing purchase.
That is interesting. So it actually works the other way around as well. So if you continue with allegations of, significant allegations in inappropriate times, it actually backfires at some point.
Yeah, no, it's just the overuse of it is what renders it ineffective, and if you're going to use insults repeatedly or accusations repeatedly, and they have no basis, they will just be shrugged off. As I said, initially it may hurt, but it doesn't have purchase. So you have very angry, self-righteous people using these terms, and they're just looking increasingly vulnerable and stupid. Ideally, I guess the way to respond to them, if one can think fast enough, is with humor, because you can't
100%.
argue it. Whereas if you take it seriously, you end up looking a bit defensive, and you over-explain yourself.
Right. Absolutely.
So I think that's one way of dealing with it.
I think absolutely right. We do need to leave it there. Makundi's telling me we've got ads before the news. Sara Gon, thank you as always.